Hi everyone, GM. This session is the fireside chat with a topic on chain intelligence, and we are talking about unlocking the power of blockchain data. I'm Sanamat, CEO founder of tokenization. Will be moderator for today, and I'm here with Alex of Nansen, the CEO and founder of Nansen. Hey Alex, would you mind give us a quick introduction from yourself? To the audience.
Yeah. Hey, Tanwat, good to see you. My name is Alex. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Nansen. We essentially help people discover new opportunities on chain. We help them decide on those, and we also help them track their holdings across all of the chains that they care about through portfolio tracking, but also through smart alerts and so on. And we also recently launched a very successful validator business, which has been growing quite fast. So yeah, happy to be here with you.
That's great to hear, and always excited to learn from leading data provider business in the crypto like Nansen and leading by you. I wonder, as I remember, Nansen was started in 2019, and there's a lot of changing in crypto landscape. Would love to hear your thoughts. Do you see any fundamental shift during you start Nansen back in the days, and how it evolved through time?
Oh yeah, this is an interesting question. There's a lot of things that have changed. I would say the first thing that comes to mind is that when we launched Nansen, I thought that Ethereum was the only chain that was ever going to matter. And today, the world looks very different in the sense that you have lots of different chains, both layer ones and also layer twos, that are doing pretty well, actually, if you look at the on-chain metrics. And so when we started building Nansen, we only focused on Ethereum. And for actually, I think, 2 years, we only had Ethereum support. And so at some point, we decided to add support for, I think Polygon was the first chain actually we added after Ethereum. But today we support, 30 plus different blockchains, actually 50 plus if you look at some of the portfolio tracking we do. So that's definitely one big change. And then I think the other change, which I sort of anticipated, is that a lot more trading activity takes place on chain, right? When we started in 2019 to build the product, most of the trading was actually happening on centralized exchanges. I mean, that's still the case, but decentralized exchanges have grown a lot, which means that there's kind of more interesting things happening on chain. So I would say those are probably the two things that come to mind, that we just have more chains now, first of all. And secondly, that people are generally more active on chains because you can trade now without having to pay $50 in gas fees and so on to make a swap.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So integrating a lot of chains might be tough for you guys at Nansen. And as I know, you guys are specialized not only chain integration on the multi-chains, but wallet addresses as well. Can you share those approach, what make Nansen unique in the sense of chain integrations and
Yeah,
wallet labelings?
absolutely. So what we are probably best known for is our ability to label addresses, right? And I like to say that that is our superpower. And I think we are probably the best company in the world at doing this. I would happily take a competition on any given address to see, how good we are at labeling them versus any other company. We have more than 400 million addresses labeled. Every single label that we have actually compiled the evidence for as well, so that we can really do proper auditing and quality assurance of all the labels. And increasingly, we do this using AI agents, right? So when we started, we were always doing this algorithmically somehow, right? But a lot of it was kind of deterministic algorithms and stuff. And then we were also putting a lot of effort through manual work into labeling. But increasingly, those two parts, like the manual work and the automated work, has kind of converged through AI agents. And actually, this week, we have a new feature that we're launching called Deep Research, where you can effectively click one button and have a bunch of agents try to figure out what is that address and who is behind it and compile all the evidence that we can find on which entity it is. So I think that is like what I like to call our superpower. That is the central thing that we're extremely good at. But to your point, integrating the chains in the first place also is something that we need to focus a lot on. And just to give you an idea, back in the day when we integrated Solana for the first time, I think we spent more than maybe 9 months, 6 to 9 months
Mm.
to implement it. And even for Polygon, which is also an EVM, it in theory should have been pretty easy. I think we spent at least 3 months on it. Now we have several examples where we've integrated a chain in one day.
Wow,
And
that's
and
fast.
yeah, and so this too is also very AI driven actually on the back end.
Mm.
Like we generate a lot of the code, and what we have to focus more on is like the evaluation and the quality assurance. So yeah, to your point, like both of those two challenges are core challenges that we solved internally. One is to integrate the chains really fast with perfect data quality and low latency, and the other is to make sure that we can label the addresses that are active on those chains.
Wow, that's a lot of AI applications might be going on inside Nansen's.
Yes.
One day is pretty fast and giving like a lot of changes launching now. There's might be a lot of going on in that pieces. Um, and lead to great questions on about your AI integrations. Um, with your background in AI already, um, which area is exciting you the most? Using AI to apply in your business, whether it can be
Mm.
like efficiency, customer insights, how user consume data. Which area you see that could be trends of using AI practically in Nansen business?
Yeah, so our AI strategy internally is basically the ambition is to be an AI trailblazer, both on
Mhm.
organizational productivity, but also on product innovation. So I think we are ahead of most other companies when it comes to organizational productivity. Like the way we use AI internally in the company is pioneering, if I could use that word. Like
Mm.
I think we just use it a lot for all of our work across the board. Although I think our hosts SCB 10X are actually also very AI native. I've spoken with their team and I've been really impressed actually with what they've been doing. But I think the thing I'm most excited about right now is more on the product innovation side, like
Mhm.
how we can essentially make the product itself more AI native. And so I tend to think of this as we're moving from one paradigm to a new paradigm when it comes to software. In the old world, humans would use software directly, very,
Mm.
very straightforward. You and I would go in and we would use a piece of software. That's how it works. I think the new paradigm, humans use agents and agents use software.
Mm.
So what does that mean? That means instead of you having to spend a ton of time to figure out how the hell does Nansen work? This is a complicated product. I don't know where to find the right dashboard. How do I set up my smart alerts and all that stuff? You just talk to an agent, and the agent is using the software. And so I think
Mm.
that just creates, it opens up the total addressable market for our product and for, frankly, like many other software products tremendously, because you can work through a more organic user interface, which is text or voice, and you get kind of the same output, but you get it much faster. And
Mm.
so I've been thinking about this a lot as a consumer as well. Like if I go into a product today, because I've been working so much with I think it's kind of silly that I have to click around and find the right section to do something, right? I should just be able to say, here's what I want to do, like do it for me.
Mm.
And
And
like
going
there are
to
two,
page.
yeah, there are two
Mm.
examples that come to mind that are pretty simple. But if I want to change to dark mode in a product, I should be able to say switch to
Mm.
dark mode, and then it just switches, right? But today I have to go in like the settings option and maybe the display
Mm.
tab, scroll down and then toggle. It's just a silly, it
Mm.
feels like a silly old-fashioned user experience. So I think the thing I'm the most excited about is to embrace this new paradigm with where humans mostly work through AI agents, and the AI agents are basically using the software at the end of the day.
Mm. And would this be alpha things that Nansen is working on? Maybe like give
Yes.
me 5. Wow, that's exciting. Using voice control.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff we're working on right now that I'm super pumped about. So this week, like I said, we're launching deep research for addresses, which means, we might already have great labels for an address, but if we don't, you can yourself on demand trigger AI agents to go out and do the research in 5 to 10 minutes, and they come back with the full
Mm.
report of what the address is. That's one thing. Another thing is we have a button that allows you to do an analysis from X in real time.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the last 24 hours for any token, you just click it, we go out and we actually bring back what smart money are saying on X about the token. That's pretty cool. And then the one thing I'm very excited about is we have a research agent and what's called an MCP, a model context protocol, that we're developing so that hopefully next month we can
Mm-hmm.
release the Nansen MCP. And for those of you who kind of don't know what an MCP is, what it means is you can bring Nansen into ChatGPT, Claude, Cursor, any AI product that supports this MCP standard. So, like I was saying earlier, I think this is a new paradigm. We're going to be working through AI agents and AI interfaces. And so we want to make sure that every AI agent in the world can use Nansen. And so launching an
Mm.
MCP quickly is one of our priorities.
That's exciting to hear. Can't wait to integrate Nansen to our workflow as well,
Yeah.
as per
Yes.
now. Like a Jarvis, but doing on-chain for us, right?
Yes. Exactly.
Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned about smart money, which actually another topic that Nansen is well known about this term. I would say that probably you guys probably the one who popularized it. And people now using smart money's flow in that context. Just curious, how would you describe smart money? How can my wallet maybe describe as smart? Can you share more context about
Yeah.
this to the audience?
Yeah, so our mission is to surface the signal and create winners. And when you have hundreds of millions of addresses on a blockchain, it can be quite difficult to know which of those addresses you might be looking at, like which ones you should be
Mm,
looking at. So the concept of smart money is essentially out of all those hundreds of millions, here are the thousands of addresses that we actually think are worth paying attention to with regards to what they're doing. So the very concrete way that we do this is we calculate the P&L of every address on a blockchain in terms of their trading activity. And we say these are addresses that historically or recently have been able to make quite a lot of money on chain. So although past performance is not necessarily indicative of future performance, it can be a good reference, I think, to look at what are some investors that have made a lot of money recently, and you
mm,
might want to look at which tokens they're buying. So we always thought of smart money as a kind of a proxy for what are the tokens you might want to be looking at.
mm,
And so it's literally calculated from P&L, which is actually much harder to do accurately than people realize, because you have to do it, across chains. You have to deal with
right.
DeFi protocols. You have to deal with scam tokens, staking activity. There's tons of different things to factor in. But once you have done all that work, you can figure out the P&L, and then you can essentially rank addresses based on how successful they are. Now, I
Mm,
think the next frontier of this is not just to measure historically how much money they made, but see if you can predict how much money they will make in the future. And so that's kind
mm,
of the next frontier when it comes to smart money. But essentially, that's the concept. These are the addresses that you want to be paying attention to as an investor or a trader on chain.
mm, that's to reduce time to research far a lot and then give
Correct.
you this insight for only which one to follow up.
Yes.
That's maybe a lot of tough work. And I do agree that learning from history itself might be the direct predictions of price, but knowing it in sort of the right intuitions may give a clue which one we should take action from that. Thank you for sharing that insight. Um, and you mentioned about like multi-chain, cross-chain integrations. Is there any particular problem when you solve it kind of this? Because we know that each blockchain have drastically different technical foundations, right? Whether it's going to
Yes.
be new language particular like privacy coins or other new technology. Can you share those insights that any challenge that arise when integration more chain and more chain?
Yeah, we have definitely focused a lot on making sure that our EVM integrations are very, very fast and seamless.
Mhm.
So that's where we started. And so when a new L2 launches for Ethereum, typically, I guess in all cases, it will be an EVM chain. And that means the EVM chains we can integrate really, really quickly. And we've done, lots of EVMs over the years. When you ask about challenges, the harder ones are the non-EVMs, right? So if you think
Mm.
of kind of SUI or Aptos or Near, um, even Bitcoin, Solana, um, Hyperliquid, these, although Hyperliquid has Hyper EVM, these are chains that are much harder to integrate because they have a different data format. You kind of need to. I was chatting with one of the engineers, and he was trying to say that, sometimes it feels like we're trying to like put everything into the same square when actually these chains don't necessarily fit that square, right? And this is a frustrating thing, right? You kind of have to harmonize the data across all these different chains, which they may be very different. Think of Ton, which was a huge headache to integrate
Mm.
because the data formats are just completely different, and the way like block numbers work are very different than say an EVM chain. So definitely non-EVMs is where you have the most challenges. I think another challenge which will kind of just increase in the next months and years is just the fact that you're going to have so much more throughput with some of these
Mm.
chains, right? Like if you think of Bitcoin and Ethereum L1, these are very low throughput chains, right? But you look at things like SUI or yeah, Hyperliquid and Mega ETH and Monad. These are chains that are going to process thousands of transactions per second. So
Mm.
that's going to be a challenge and very kind of short block times of maybe in some cases less than 100 milliseconds. So I think the volume aspect is also going to be a challenge because you can always store the data, but how do you make sure that you can like scan the data really quickly and kind of have a low query latency and low data latency or ingestion latency for the end user? So I would say generally like non-EVM chains are hard, and the volume that's just going to explode, I think, in the next months and years is going to be a challenge for sure. And it means you have to have very, very good data engineering, and you have to have very good
Mm.
infrastructure and pick the right technology to make sure that users don't have to sit around for like 20 seconds waiting for some dashboard to load.
Mm. That's a lot of heavy liftings on detail, syncing data blocks and formatting through to that.
Yes.
Any AI agent helping you guys right now on that sense of data?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of code generation. Generally the company uses tools like Cursor a lot.
Mm.
We have an internal dashboard that measures how much each engineer uses Cursor,
Wow,
and
that's a
it's kind
great
of up.
thing.
It's like up and to the right. Every month we use
Mhm.
Cursor more. So generally, like we make use of AI a lot. We also do some very cool things in the company where we have um, we have automated peer reviews of code. So I think the latest number is that 38% of the pull requests that came through were reviewed by an agent and auto approved because the complexity and sort of impact was quite low, things like bug fixes and so on. So
Mm.
38% of the pull requests got auto reviewed and auto deployed by an agent. And then similarly now we have also agents that can even uh, be brought into a Slack thread and create a pull request and fix a bug, for example, create the pull
Mm.
request, do the coding using Claude Code, and push the pull request, and then the separate agent will review it. So yeah, so it's kind of weird because it feels like maybe 2 years ago I was saying that at Nansen we're gonna have a workplace that feels like science fiction because you're going to have AI agents working side by side with the human engineers or like the human employees and team members. And I thought it would take, maybe several years, but like here we are, mid
Mm.
2025, and we literally have
It's
AI
now already.
agents. Yeah. we have AI agents that are working side by side with us, and it feels science fiction, but it's like extremely cool. So yeah, there's a lot of AI generated code, a lot of AI reviews that are done. So the nature of engineering, I think, has changed and will continue to change in the next months and years.
Wow, that does sound exciting to also expected more innovations from Nansen itself, hearing about your
Yes.
automation inside the company. Thanks for sharing that. Let's move on to more of a broader market cycles, and there was uh, fluctuation in market. I would say like we was Bitcoin was up a lot on Q1. There was a meme craze on back in Q1 to Q4 last year. Um, and given Nansen theme and excuse me, giving our theme of building through this high cycle of high volatility, I believe.
A little bit. I think you were asking about the market and sort of my view on how things have changed recently, right?
Uh, yes, the market had been like quite different than a bull market DeFi summers back then in
Yes. Yeah,
2021.
I mean, I
What do
think
you feel on that?
I think a lot of this, frankly, is kind of macro and politically driven. So obviously, when Trump was elected president in the U.S., that was that sparked a bit of a bull run on the crypto side in November, December last year, and then when the tariffs started launching, that became not so fun, let's say in February and March. And then now I think we are back to a pretty healthy place for crypto. And some of it is driven by the fact that we have a very pro crypto SEC chair, right? And so, I think if you saw this week, Paul Atkins, the new SEC chair, put out some comments on how he thinks about decentralized finance of crypto and how decentralized finance is consistent with American values. And so when I saw that tweet, I thought, this is unbelievable. Like we went from Gary Gensler to Paul Atkins, who,
Mm,
is fully embracing crypto and decentralized finance. So I think that's kind of the undercurrent that many people are excited about, specifically for crypto. I think there's a lot of like macro uncertainty, whether it's like wars or still high rates and potentially weakening US dollar and all these different themes. But I think overall, crypto has kind of reached the point where we're not going back, and Bitcoin in particular, I think people have realized that this is an asset that's here to stay.
mm,
So, the final thing I would say on this is that I think for those of us, like for you and me who are in crypto, we tend to operate on like a very fast time scale, right? Like
right.
things happen very quickly. But in TradFi and in politics, things take a really long time to play out. So even if you think of Bitcoin ETFs, it even if those have launched, it's not like the day after everything is like good to go on the TradFi side. There's still so much work to kind of make sure that these ETFs make their way into the right distribution channels, into like the right products that can be pushed, the incentives, like people have to be trained on how to sell them on the TradFi side, and so I think those changes take much longer time than maybe those of us
Mm,
in crypto realize. So yeah, so I think there's just like a generally like steady rising tide when it comes to crypto from the political side and from kind of Wall Street and the TradFi side. Uh,
mm,
and you also see this with these digital asset treasury companies, kind of like MicroStrategy and so on. That's becoming a pretty hot topic.
mm,
Yeah. So anyway, I think overall things look pretty bright, and
mhm.
like crypto is not going away anytime soon. I think we've kind of reached escape velocity, and finally, on the political side and on the TradFi side, people have kind of realized that this is the future of finance.
Mm. And those macro, do you see any effect on your customer? Do they change
Yeah,
any behavior
yeah,
on new customer that you
yeah. We we've
surprise you?
we've been, yeah. I mean, like transparently, 2022 and 2023 were pretty rough given how the industry went. And
Mm.
in the last almost 2 years, things have been pretty much up only when you look at the business metrics internally. So whether it's, our validator and staking business, which has grown from $60 million of asset stake to 2.5 billion in 9 months, which is kind of unheard of, like 40x growth pretty much.
Wow,
Um,
congrats.
or on the analytics side, where we have obviously more and more subscribers signing up and more usage. Um, but also now with some of the launches we have around AI, whether it's the MCP or this new API that we have in private beta, these are also things that have like a lot more interest now than they had a year ago or 2 years ago.
Exciting to hear. And with the recent news, I guess not that recent, but yeah, as you said, crypto move fast, right? You acquired stake with us, and then that has been major shift with you growing strongly. And happy
Yes.
to hear about 2.5 billion staking. Congrats on that again. Um, would you see more integration between? I mentioned the stake with us acquisitions that led to new business. Would you see more? I would say integrations and synergies between your strong analytics in cryptos and investment business more to come from Nansen?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, let's think about it from the user's perspective, right? What is the thing that the user tends to do in the context of Nansen? Well, the first thing they do is discover tokens to potentially invest in. The second thing they do is to decide, right? Perform due diligence and figure out, do I buy this or not? Or do I sell this or not? Then once they have decided, they go ahead and actually execute a trade, right? They go and maybe go to Jupiter, they go to Uniswap, or they go to a centralized exchange, Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, you name it, and they execute there. And then maybe if it's an L1 token, they will stake the token. Now they can do that
Mm.
directly with us, right? Self-custodially. There is no custody. You can hold the tokens in your wallet. You just select Nansen as the validator that you delegate to for proof of stake. And then finally, you can track all of your holdings on chain. So those are like the 5 things: discover, decide, trade, stake, and track. And so we do all of those things except one thing, and that is the
Mm.
trading part,
Mm.
right? And so you can sort of imagine, given how the infrastructure has improved, you have very low gas fees now, you have great dexes, you have dex aggregators. You can kind of imagine that like the next obvious play would be to do something in that area. But we do 4 out of 5, right? We help you discover,
Mm.
we help you decide, we help you stake, and we help you track. The only thing that's missing is the trade piece, which incidentally, arguably, is the most valuable piece and where most of the value is captured, right? When you think
Mm.
about the revenue and so on. So yeah, I think we're going to be making moves on that front, maybe sooner than people expect. But
Mm. That's
that's
enough
something
fun, guys.
that's something that I'm very excited about personally.
Mm. Exciting to look forward for that integrations or new innovations from Nansen on that front. Um, wow, a lot of things to share from Nansen, and seeing outside, we only see the product, but learning the engine, the visions that shape whole company excite me, honestly. Um, and let move to the next questions. Um, remember, there was old predictions that you say quote unquote from one of the old predictions in 2025 being the mother of all bull markets.
Mm.
And that was maybe like in a few quarters ago, based on chain activity. With current situations, would you change your mind, or would you make another bold predictions? What you thought about this year and next year on bull market? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reflecting on that prediction recently, how accurate it was. I mean, we did reach an all-time high, and I don't think we're done. I think we will reach new all-time highs for sure. And there are some assets that have done incredibly well. If you think of Hype, for example, and even Sui and many other kind of upcoming L1s, for example. Yeah, I think we're gonna keep going up. no investment advice here, of course. People have to do their own research. But I think all the undercurrents are there to kind of help elevate our industry. And what I would say is I do think there's a lot of noise in our industry. There are a lot of projects that, frankly, are not, if I can put it bluntly, should probably never exist. Or
Mm,
they have a token that should never exist. And so, one thing I look forward to is more clarity from the SEC and other regulators around the world on, how we can actually create valuable tokens, right?
mm,
Because now we're stuck in this interesting catch 22, where the only tokens you can create to some extent are valueless tokens, like meme coins, for
mm,
example. But
right.
to me, it would be cool if you could buy Nansen equity on Jupiter or Uniswap, or
Mm,
tokenomist tokens that represent equity in the business, right? But that's pretty hard to do from a regulatory perspective today. And so you would have to see some changes there. But like my broad kind of vision overall for the future is that every asset is going to get tokenized. And so
mm,
your equity in your company or my equity in my company should be no different. We should be able to trade these things on chain. We should be able to collateralize our equity in DeFi and so on and so forth. So I think that's one area that I'm personally very excited about. And I think we will see maybe more development in that area than people think. The one company here I think is interesting is Superstate, which is the company of Robert Leshner, who
mhm,
is the founder of Compound. And full disclosure, Robert Leshner is on our board, but he is doing some super interesting things in Superstate and kind of creating a path for companies to tokenize their equity. I think personally is very exciting. I would love to
mm,
own a piece of, Wintermute or Cumberland or, great companies
mm,
that would just tokenize their equity. I'm not saying any of those companies will do that, by the way, but I would love to as an investor, and I would rather own that than own some kind of meme coin or
mm,
excuse the language, some kind of bullshit token that frankly doesn't do anything, but kind of
mm,
LARPs as equity, right? So when we think about the market going forward, the thing that's really going to 10x or 100x or even 1,000x the value that's on blockchain is if we're going to get things like equity and other real world assets on chain. And to me,
mm,
that's frankly more exciting than a lot of the you know, um, so-called protocol tokens or, meme coins that you see.
mm.
Um,
Speculations and
exactly.
some odd, yeah.
It's more speculative, but it's understandable how we ended up there because there was no way to actually tokenize valuable things because,
Right.
the SEC and other regulators made it very difficult to get the regulatory clarity. So the thing that I think is really going to drive the next phase of crypto is to make that possible. And I think now you have the right political environment to make it happen. And if it does happen, then the next years are going to go way beyond our wildest dreams.
Mm. That's true. I do agree with that, meaning that there's a not valuable coin for us to like hold and get the dividends equity value type of thing from the traditional finance, and having that on chain will drastically make the crypto industry totally different. Um, and as we're wrapping up, thank you for sharing vision and insight on this market and sort of also macro things, AI things, that exciting things that Nansen also pushing out. I believe the crypto folks and data folks will learn a lot from here. Um, to wrap up, any things you want to say to audience? Our audience may be builders, investor, and if they want to build or looking to invest in the scene, what should they be watching in 2025, or what should they expect to see in Nansen? Please have
Yeah,
a final thought on this.
I think obviously go to nansen.ai, which is our website, and you can see what we do there. We have an API that's coming out, which will, I think, be interesting for a lot of builders, but also for funds and in some cases individual investors, because now because of vibe coding and because of what you can do with a lot of AI tools, something as technical as an API suddenly becomes much more accessible. So that's one thing that I would encourage everyone to check out. And then, the MCP as well, I think is going to feel revolutionary once we put that out. We've already been using it internally at the company. So that's another thing I would encourage people to check out. Yeah, I think the name of our company is Nansen. We also have the domain nansen.ai. And sometimes people are like, what does Nansen have to do with AI? But the interesting thing is we've been using AI behind the scenes to power our product for so long, for example, for labeling addresses and a bunch of other things. But I think increasingly now the AI part of our company is becoming part of the user experience as well. And so it's kind of nice to be able to finally live up to that name, right? And that's one thing that's something I'm very excited about, to make sure that we are kind of at the forefront of embracing this new paradigm, which is a more AI native world. So yeah, what are you excited about? If I can ask you the question back.
Um, Likewise, the MCP totally changed and reduce the gap to knowledge in my perspective. AI gonna help human get to the knowledge faster than ever before, either through query, either to learnings, and that will be a big shift on both our industry, crypto and data, and
Mm,
the area of digital asset. So likewise, that Alex, I'm excited for MCP and how user behave on this realm. And thank you for the time today. And be sure to check Nansen out. Exciting things coming in.
my
From
pleasure.
me, my side, yep. And thanks for your time, Alex, for sharing insight.
Thank you.
Been a pleasure to have this time. And also, I'm glad to be here and I speak to Alex and get his thoughts. So hope the audience enjoy and learn more about that. Be sure to check tokenization.ai as well. We build and collaborate with Nansen. There'll be
Yes.
new exciting things that we do together with Nansen. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind, maybe I can share with the audience that we now have an integration with Tokenomist, and that means you can see some of the great analytics that you get from Tokenomist directly within Nansen's Token God mode. So that's been great, and I've been using it myself quite a lot actually. So hopefully that's useful for our end users, but also hopefully it creates more users on your end as well who will come and check out your great product.
Yeah. Thank you for this, Alex. Great chat.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
See you
Take
again.
care.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.